Good evening, Life fans. Oh, good evening, fellow sufferers. Good evening, fellow victims. Oh, I've been working on a railroad all the livelong day. Oh, I've been working on a railroad just to pass the time away. Get up so early in the morning. Sometimes when you're consumed by the deep, turgid, all-consuming fires and flames of life, you don't know just which way to go and how to say it, right, friends? You walk down the street and you look up and you see that sky and you see that rain coming down. Yes, you feel the thunder of the earth mothers around you, thundering back to their jobs. Yes, you know somewhere that the fecund... Well, let's try that one. That's F-E-C-U-N-D. We'll give you 30 seconds while you look that one up. The fecund main stem stream life world. Yeah, they looked it up. Let's go on another game. She's got eyes of blue. I never cared for eyes of blue, but she's got eyes of blue, and that's my weakness now. She's got dimpled cheeks. I never cared for dimpled cheeks, but she's got dimpled cheeks, and that's my weakness now. She likes to bill and coo. I never liked to bill and coo, but she likes to bill and coo, so that's my weakness now. You don't want to hear more, do you? Yes, indeedy. You really do want to hear how it is out there, don't you? Do you ever have the feeling that you're the only one who wants to say it? I feel like a bad tap dancer on the Ed Sullivan Show. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks. Thank you, folks. And now for my encore. You ever have the feeling, though, seriously, friends, that you're the only one who has those rotten thoughts? Oh, she likes to bill and coo, and I never care to bill and coo, but she likes to bill and coo, and that's my weakness now. Wah, wah. You ever have that feeling? That you're the only totally debauched person in the world? Well, you didn't, huh? What are you doing here, anyway, at this hour? You should be someplace where they've really made it. No, there's something to do with the loser. I suspect that the losers are far more realistic than the winners. And maybe, perhaps, by being realistic, they become losers. Has it ever occurred to you? Oh, no, really. But you know what I mean by that? That because you more realistically assay your role in life, when you get up there to swing, or whatever it is you're going to do, or fiddle with the books in the accounting department, when you get up there to swing, you think that I am an unworthy person. Me, a small jot in the great eye of Buddha, am an unworthy person. That never occurs to a winner. And so naturally, since he is facing a loser, because to be a winner, you have to face losers. Two winners cannot face one another. You understand that, don't you? It is a philosophical concept which we would like to go into some night. If you think you're a winner, have you ever faced another winner in the same ring? Whatever that ring may be. It may be in the accounting department, cost analysis division, I don't know. But when two winners get together dead, you see dust. Well, as a matter of fact, a winner can tell another winner 1,000 yards off, and they never get in the same ring with one another. Oh, no. Why do you think Sonny Liston is so anxious to fight Cashius Clay? Yes, indeed. Yes, indeed. And, of course, the thing about a loser is that he always wants to fight the winner, because he figures somehow by some fantastic trick of fate he will become a winner. Forget it. He is just another rung on the vast stepladder of a winner's climb to eventual total success on the pinnacle. She likes to... Oh, you think you're the only one who's ever had rotten thoughts? And you think that only America is where they have rotten... Please, will you? Please. No, Eddie. No, the other. There we go. Once again, the BBC brings you a salute to Englishmen everywhere. Indomitable, marching forward, carrying the banner of Western civilization. The BBC tonight salutes another valiant, however unknown Englishman for duty above and beyond the call of all Anglo-Saxons everywhere. Yes, friends, tonight the BBC's third program service salute to an Englishman salutes an unknown Englishman. Bottle England. And we quote now, so let us not argue yet. Bottle England, October 31st. When a motorist switched on the heater in his new car, a British automobile, his rear window fogged over, and an unprintable 4-letter word showed up in the fog. He turned off his heater and the word disappeared. He turned it on and it reappeared. He tried to wipe it off. No go. So he took his car to a garage. Our men tried cleaning the glass, said garage employee Bert Bolton today, but with no success. Bolton, who did not identify the motorist, sent the car along to the firm which made the glass. They tried to wipe the word off, but failed. It suggests, said an official, that the window was the 2-tier type and that the letters were written on the inner transparent layer. He had no idea how it got there. A new window was promised for the car, but until this moment, a single word written by an Englishman remains. Once again, the BBC has saluted the indomitable spirit of the Englishman, wherever he might be. We shall fight them on the beaches. We shall fight them in the hedgerows, with blood, sweat, and tears. Oh, ran out there. What you doing? Setting that up way in the end there? Well, there's... Oh, well, that's not all. You want to hear more of what's going on in England? All right. Once again there. Once more. Go salute to England, man. And once again, a salute to the indomitable British spirit. Peter Gould, 20, English student, stomped across the hood and roof of an automobile. Fined $14 in court. He later trumpeted, "We've had enough of these cars running over men. It's about time a man, an Englishman, ran over a car." Once again, the BBC third program salutes the indomitable spirit of the Englishman, holding up the fine thin threads of Western civilization. Yeah. Of course, I've told you the story, speaking of the fantastic. They did not say what the fantastic four-letter word was, but it goes way back in the vocabulary of Western man. It's an ancient Celtic word. I'd love to see the face on this guy when he's driving along in his new car and it heats up. You know how it clouds up inside? He turns on his heater and it clouds up, and he's looking through the rear view mirror. And all of a sudden, he says, what, by George? Turns around, his derby hat, sort of creaks. By George! The garage, man. Gets out and he takes his cloth. He wipes it off. It gets brighter and brighter and brighter and brighter. Good heavens. Oh, boy. Next thing you know, it's going to be Gilbert and Sullivan here. But, this is, did I ever tell you? Of course, I think I did tell you about the time this guy in a southern Ohio City, which we shall for the want of any, of course, to protect the innocent living, we will use the fictitious name of Cincinnati. This guy in this southern Ohio City bought, in Ohio, like they do here, in certain instances, you get your licenses by mail. You don't know. You just send in your dough and you get a license plate, and that's the end. Year after year, you get your license. You never quite know what number you're going to get. Now, in Ohio, as in Connecticut, they have a series of numbers and letters. You've seen these Connecticut license plates that will say Chet on them. Have you seen those? Letters like that. Well, so it was in Ohio. Now, I hasten to point out, maybe I hesitate to point out, that the Ohio license plates are made in the Ohio State Reformatory. Now, the Ohio State Reformatory, by definition, is filled with the greatest crowd of soreheads you ever saw in your life. I mean, why do you think they've been trundled away there, And it's very hard to get any word to the outside. Well, one guy one day was working on his machine when he had an inspiration as to how to get word to the outside by turning out the proper license plate. This actually happened. This guy in Cincinnati opened up his mail. It came in this big brown envelope. He couldn't believe it. What a fantastic license plate. Everybody's looking for a low number or something. What a license plate. And it's legal. He got it from the state. He rushed out and he bolted it on the back of his car. And 10 minutes later, he's driving all up and down. He's telling Cincinnati and the world what he thinks of it. And so, mankind, indomitable, its spirit flowering always, in spite of overwhelming difficulties, marches on, by God. Well, you want to hear the end of it? Well, I'll tell you the end of it. This guy drove around for 3 days in Cincinnati with this fantastic license plate on the back of his car. A simple, elegant, beautifully delineated 4-letter word. And they were very bright license plates that year. Dark blue background, very white letters. I knew the guy, and he would drive into drive-ins, for example, very ostentatiously. He would drive in, where they're eating and drinking the malts. He would drive all the way around so everyone could see it. Boop, 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 and then drive. The ultimate hippie. Until one day he's driving along Reading Road, and way behind him he hears, woo! Believe it or not, the arm of the law descended. Get out of the car, wise guy. What about that license plate? His license plate? Of course, I'd be glad to show you my registration. He takes out his registration, and what is printed in the little line where it says license number? Guess. Big 4 letters all hanging there big. Cop says, wise guy, come here. 10 minutes later, he is at the precinct. It was nip and tuck for a couple of weeks. Speaking of 4-letter words, this is WOR, AM and FM, New Yorkie. And you pick your own. We'll be here until, LJ comes along, or until Mr. Leader hears us. And we're here in New York. For the benefit of those of you who do not live in New York and are dreaming to come to this town to make the scene big, For those of you who are way up in Maine, way up there in Vermont, and who are burning inside that someday you'll get here to the Big Apple where life is happening, where it's all happening all the time. And if only you could walk down Bleecker Street with your head held high, your eyes shining, your guitar slung over your back, and that chick hanging out to your elbow. What's the matter, Dad? Not warmed up, eh? I see. The next time you talk to Jim about my problems with my technique, we'll talk about your problems with the knob technique. I know, that's trouble. I know, real trouble. Doesn't work? That's good. That would have gotten us into trouble if it had worked. But seriously, though, for those of you who think that if you could get to New York and life would begin, well, we're in New York, fellow, and we're here where it's all happening, and I suggest that, I would suggest, speaking of New York, just put it away. Don't forget about it. Just lay it down, forget about it. Let's go on with the show. Speaking of New York, Roy, New York is you probably see life in the raw, and New York and American life rawer here in New York than any other place in the world. No, you could not see it in Cleveland. Having lived there for a while, I can tell you that those people don't know, you see, in a sense, because they kind of live life. Here in New York, we engineer it. You see, New York is not really, it really isn't lived in New York here. It is engineered, literally. I'm serious about that. Most of the writers in America live in New York. Now, I'm going to explain to you what is meant by engineering life. Most of the writers live in New York, and they do not hesitate at all to write about what's happening in, let's say, Birmingham. The engineer, they write it like mad. No hesitation at all. I wonder how they would feel, say, if somebody in Cleveland were to write about life in New York and put it down. But life is engineered in many ways here in New York. People who come to New York are different from people who stay in Cleveland or Birmingham or Miami or Quebec City or wherever it is you say. They come for specific reasons. Most of them they are not aware of. Much of the coming to New York is because of running. It's not really coming to New York. It's being like chased to New York for one reason or another. But I saw a great example of the New York attitude towards engineering life just the other day on Fifth Avenue. The New York World's Fair will be the first World's Fair that is engineered. It doesn't just grow, They, like poor old Chicago, they just cleared a lot of land and put up some stuff and waited for the people to come. And that's exactly what happened in Chicago World's Fair. And it was a big ball. People laughed and hollered and hit each other and went home, and then that was the end of the fair. A few years later, that was it. Not New York. Only in New York could this happen. There is a window display in the window of a big airlines here in New York, and it says, Airlines, I think it's United Airlines buys 1 millionth fare ticket. I says, buys 1 million fare ticket. They have bought them. That doesn't mean United Airlines. Now, don't look so confused at me, ladies and gentlemen. It does not mean they have bought 1 million fare tickets. The sign says they have bought the 1 millionth fare ticket. They have not yet sold the other 999,999, you see. And I said, well, this is fantastic. The fair is like a half a year off. They haven't sold ticket one. They have just sold the 1 millionth ticket. Well, the way they have done this is, you see, it's quite obvious that, first of all, they assume they're going to sell 1 million tickets. That's that's engineering success right there. I mean, it would be sad to hold the 1 millionth ticket when the total amount ever sold was, say, like 800,000. However, this is a New York attitude. Nothing happens by chance. Now, in the old days, the 1 millionth fare ticket would have been bought by some butcher from Brooklyn. Walked in, you got the 1 millionth fare. They hit him, they bid, and he wins the trip to Tahiti, and they give him a horseshoe that he puts around his neck, and his picture is taken, and it shows up in the Post, and he winds up on the Ed Sullivan Show. Just like, not in New York. It's not going to happen like that. Never. There's going to be a ticket marked 999,909. And there's going to be one marked 1,000,001. There ain't going to be no Brooklyn butcher at this World's Fair. And I'm sure that they are now busily selling the 1,000th ticket. They are now selling the 500,000th ticket. They are selling the 100,000th ticket, and each one of these tickets will be kept, you see, as a souvenir by the big company that buys it, as if they were there on that day. And 100 years from now, people say, gee, wasn't that fantastic? That it just so happened that United Airlines was going through the terminal, right through that turnstile. It could have been a crummy old butcher. It could have been a lousy little fat housewife from the Bronx. It was United Airlines. Isn't that fantastic?
But she talks, baby talks,
and that's her weakness now. Ba-ba-ba-ba.
She likes the engagement ring.
All right, cut it out there, gang. Cut it out. That's New York, and I couldn't believe it. I said, you crying out loud. And somehow, and there it shows, of course, Robert Moses. He's probably the best named man I can think of offhand. Shows Robert Moses handing the ticket to this big executive. Yeah, it was a stone one. You're right. And it was funny. It was carved. It was like a tablet. It was a very funny thing. But somehow, to me, this is a forerunner of things to come with this fair. It's been one hassle after the other, and about this kind of little trivial stuff. Can't you see this guy catching this kid, getting in, trying to get in on a quarter ticket? I mean, hitting them and hollering, and it's just somehow the whole scene. When I heard about the IBM exhibit with the stainless steel trees in front of it, and the people wall. They have a thing called the people wall. Yeah, the IBM exhibit. It's a wall of people. I don't know how they do that. I know about human pyramids. I've been in several human pyramids myself, Roy. A couple of human pyramids. I will never forget one night out at Jones Beach. Oh boy, we dealing with the cops and everything, the whole thing. But that was another story. But this thing of the human people wall, they call it the people wall. And didn't you see the pictures of the IBM exhibit? Yeah, well, they're overcompensating. I have a feeling that the people who make machines are very embarrassed about it, you see, and so they have to all the little walls, and all the little walkways will be called Humanity Walk, things like that, or Soul, the Soul Drive, that kind of thing, and little things like Enlightenment Mall and things of that nature. And of course, they have a people wall, and I think that the most beautiful sight of all is the people wall on a Sunday afternoon with the sun glinting on the stainless steel trees. And they're about a block or so down from the Billy Graham Meditation Walk, which is kind of nice too, and the Pepsi-Cola Hall down there for those who think young. They have a whole for the young thinking crowd. Pepsi-Cola. They have a meditation room there for the older people who can come there with their bottles of Coke and to meditate a while. It's going to be an interesting thing. I suspect that this World's Fair is going to be the first World's Fair that was devoted entirely to dynamic commercials of one kind or another. Oh, yeah, totally. It's already in the wind. It's already in the wind when the 1 millionth ticket has already been sold. What chance do we have? And not to one guy. How does American Airlines buy the ticket? Who's going to go in on that ticket? I don't know. I mean, that's a good question. I mean, are they going to bring a plane right in there, the whole scene? I don't know what they're going to do with that one. But this, it's got ramifications all up and down. That nothing is. Of course, you're aware. I'm sure you're aware of this. That hardly a television show goes on today before it's been people tested. Thousands of different ways. Yeah, they trot people in by the miles. They test them. One guy hollers, boo, 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 and that's the end of a $6 million project, believe me, just like that. And so if you can get the people so that they are completely, there is not a single boo, not a single worried look on the crowd of the people coming out, the looks on their faces, you've got yourself next year's #1 time slot filler, Yeah, it's all ready. One clown, believe me, you'd be surprised at how one little sorehead can wreck the whole business. One little sorehead in the people testing world. But then of course, everything is pre-recorded. Did you read that little bit today? This is kind of a New York thing about how all of Cashius Clay's lines are written for him by this guy who writes these lines for. Well, I mean, it figures. It had to come. It had to come because the whole world is showbiz. Who do you think? I mean, seriously, who do you think writes Norman Mailer's lines? Who do you think writes Baldwin's line? Nobody just talks off the top of his head anymore. And I suspect that within a very short time, there will be an organization that will, for a fee, of course, provide you with your conversational thread. Yeah, you know, the trouble with most guys, they got no backbone. You know, I'm talking about conversational backbone. Any good writer will tell you, you got to have the thread. You've got to have a backbone in what you do. Most guys just shoot off their trap. They got no back. You know, well, what do you mean it's so? And they well, Vietnam, madam, no, I hit her in the mouth. And they got no backbone, no thread, no literary references, no sparkle, and a very bad collection of adjectives, usually consisting of 4-letter words and that kind of thing, you know. And it's just a hit or miss. But I believe that there will be an outfit that will supply you with conversation, your dialogue. Will supply you with your dialogue, and it will come under different categories, like dialogue for the office. You'll get 17 pages of office dialogue. Great stuff to say by the water cooler, you know. Cutting brilliant remarks to make, putting down the mechanical automated civilization, or putting it up, you see, depending on which side of the fence you're on. Then you'll get lines putting down the working man and unions. Or you will get lines cutting to ribbons management, depending on which side you're on, of course. Then naturally there will be a whole section devoted. You will get a series of things to what to say about sports. Now, if you're in a certain crowd, you say great, fantastically incisive things, analyzing the entire American League race next year in 3 beautifully chosen, colorful words. Boom, 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 just like that. And everyone will sit there with their mouths hanging open. Or, if you're in another crowd, how to put down the entire world of the chowder-headed sports fans in 7 brilliantly selected adjectives. Boom, 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 pow! Oscar Wilde. Boom. You know, just like that. Then, of course, there'll have to be at least 25 pages of fighting with your chick. Totally annihilating remarks, you know, just like, oh, you call yourself a woman? Well, da. Boom! Oh, she's staggering, hanging onto the chair. You know, how can you fight this brilliant, incisive wit? She comes leaning back, says, you, who you, pig? Ha ha, pig! You said the right thing, baby. Pig, P-I-G. Boom, 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 boom. Pow! Ah! Down she goes. Well, so... And then, of course, on the other hand, if you happen to be a chick, you will get exactly the reverse. Listen, I'll believe you. If I could write, I could give a chick 8,000 beautifully selected lines that would cut her, whoever she's arguing with, whoever man, down to the size of a very short Toulouse-Lautrec in about 18 seconds. Boom, 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 bang, dong, crash. His head hits the bottom of the stairs, and that's it. Oh, there's a big thing here. Well, I mean, Cashius Clay has in a very real way paved the road for the new world. And then naturally, Eddie, there will be a whole, total, complete, and a separate volume bound in limp Morocco leather. Great last lines for delivery on your deathbed. Great, fantastic lines that will ring down throughout history, that will not only embody kind of a capsule statement about your whole life, but put down everything and at the same time leave them with a touch of winging hope as you disappear from the scene. All ready, gang? Let's go. And so we salute, once again, mankind in his inevitable fight to reach the top of the pyramid of all creation. Reaching ever upwards, ever onwards, climbing that enormous Everest of the cosmos. Reaching for the top. We've got to get there because it's there. By God. We'll pick up where the anthropoidal apes left off. We will stand on the shoulders of the giraffes. Leap to success on the haunches of the lions. Upward and upward and upward. They always run out of gas, that band. Well, that's a good band. I think just at the right time. Of course, I'll tell you, this springs from, and don't think for a minute that there wouldn't be 8 million guys who would not buy such a service. And right now, you know, there's a lot of dissatisfaction. This is a thing that happens a lot with adolescents and really dedicated liberals and really dedicated right-wingers. is that their concept of life really can roughly be put down as, in a sense, life is something that is consistently being loused up by somebody else. In short, life, if it were really being lived the way it should be lived, adolescents believe this, dedicated liberals believe it, and dedicated right-wingers believe it, that if life were only, if you can only clear out the stupid garbage people, if you can only get rid of all the idiotic thinkers or non-thinkers, if you can only get rid of the sadistic, rotten people, life would go on forever and ever like one beautiful song, ever and ever. In short, the troubles that happen in life are never accepted as what they call just part of the life force. Never. It's not just the way life is. And throughout all of history, there have been more burnings, there have been more axe murders, there have been more inquisitions featuring firebrands as a very prominent item in the display. There have been more resorts to tanks, flamethrowers, and pious phrases in connection with that one problem. That if we could only get rid of the rotten people, life would go on. And whatever war you're fighting against the final rotten people. Oh yeah. That's one of the reasons why every war is fought to end all wars. Practically every war in recent history, and of course in the early days, they did not have that idea. They fought wars for a lot of other reasons, mostly because they liked to hit each other, which was far more honest. You say, oh yeah, oh sure, war was a game, you know. If you've ever read any of the accounts of war during the medieval days, I mean, it was like a chess game, and that's why often war has been paralleled with chess, and chess itself gains it the names of its people, its characters, its symbols from war. The knight, the castle, the bishop. It is a war against one castle fighting against the other, and a game. And the barons and the lords of that period would gallop out on the plains and set up the game. Ed, you know what I mean? They had the flags flying and all that. And at 10 o'clock in the morning, the bugles would blow, and the little people would go out and get their brains beaten out. And all the while the nobles are running around and back. Once in a while, when it looks like a sure thing, he would gallop in and blood his sword. You see, but never on another noble. Are you aware of that? Never on another noble, except in very rare instances. And so then at noontime, no more bugles would blow, and they would retire to their lines and their tents and have tea. Often the competing nobles together. They would sit down and have a drambuie and talk it over. That was a very nice ploy, Sir Charles, when you flanked me there so beautifully with the crowd of knaves that you brought in. Actually, this afternoon's round will probably go to you, by George. You're always good in the last half. And then 10 minutes later, boop, the horn goes, and blum, 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 out they go, boom, bump, thump, pow, ah! Down go the knaves, and then as it's getting quiet, boop, 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 the horns blow, and Ethelred and Sir Charles meet, and Ethelred, that was very good. I'll see you, old top, see you at the hunt, and bloop, 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 they gallop off to the castle, and that's the truth. I tell you, it's a sad fact. Well. You like that little scene, huh? Well, I can play them all. You just call. You want me to play a knave? Ah! Boom! Ah! That's a knave. He just got it right behind the left ear with a mace. Well, anyways, wow. Well, now of course, the wars. Then later on, they discovered, that doesn't work so good because people began to say, it isn't so good. They were yelling about, that's not right. There's 87,000 knaves over there. So the wars had to be fought for clauses after that. That was the new kind of war. And it's very hard, to discover a good cause. And so in the end, the good cause is often defined as ridding the world of evil. This has been probably the most consistent cause that has run through the great wars of the last 9 million years. And no wonder people are continually disappointed after every war, shortly afterwards. There's a period of euphoria. Everybody cheers and yells. And then the next guy arrives on the scene howling, and the gas ovens are trotted out and the machine gun squads start going again, and off we are. Bloom, 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 off to the races. Boing. I've noticed among my extreme friends, and I categorize, there are 3 political parties that I can define, I can see on the horizon. There are the extreme right-wingers, and there are the extreme liberals, and then there are the adolescents, a separate political party. And all 3 of them are devoted to one thing. They know where the rotten people are. I mean, generally they're referred to as all the other guys, roughly. The right-wingers know exactly where it is. Oh, boy. And so do the left-wingers, absolutely. They can tell you all the rotten people in the world. If we could catch all those guys in one big pen, well, obviously mankind would continue to go on up and up and up and up. Just go on. And this is very true of the right-wingers. They can tell you all the rotten people. In fact, they love to compile lists of the rotten people and pass them back and forth. I'm sure I'm on 25 of them on both sides. That's the fascinating. So they love to compile a list of the rotten ones. If we could catch those rotten son of a guns and get them into a stockade somehow, someplace, and get the flamethrowers out, yeah, sometimes it's necessary, and they'll even argue that on both sides. It is sometimes necessary to resort to the very tools of your enemy. It is sometimes necessary to resort to very unkind and very cruel means to finally achieve the great goals that we have in mind. And probably a lot of innocent people are going to get hurt along the way, but it is a necessary thing to bring beauty into the world, to bring men back to the rightful track. Yeah, we're going to have to hit a few guys. We're going to have to belt a couple of guys right a year and decapitate a lot of guys. But after all, it's a beautiful world we're aiming at. It's a world of peace and beauty. It's a world where men of really, truly goodwill can be themselves individuals and where they can march forward to eventual paradise. Yeah, we got to kill a lot of rotten bums, but... There is no sadder guy in the world than a crusader 20 minutes after he's won the battle and the first rotten one shows up out of the bushes. Usually, it's the guy that helped them get in. Yeah. Have you ever wondered why every dictator who gets in immediately has to start machine gunning all the guys that went in with him? Because he's discovered they're rotten too. And, speaking of that, come, Eddie, we've got a little business here. There you go. Oh, boy, this is a scare.
We're now going for
here's
a
that
ride
nut again.
Volvo Compacts.
Here is that nut again. Hang on. Oh, we're crying out loud.
40, 50.
Hang on, God, this is a nut. The Volvo nut.
Quick, wasn't it?
Oh,
and
yeah.
quiet. Let's give it a little more gas.
All of a sudden, 90 miles an hour
60,
we're going.
70,
Hey, fella!
80,
Hey, fella!
90
Look
miles an
out!
hour, and there's more.
Oh, where is he? Help!
That does it. Feels solid like a sports car. Now we'll slow down while you mull this one over. Volvo Compacts run away from other popular price compacts in every speed range. Get over 25 miles to the gallon like the little economy cars and are virtually indestructible. Your dealer has 4 Volvo Compacts to choose from. 3 sedans and a station wagon that drives like a sedan. Since you're out driving anyhow, go over and see him.
Close. That was a close one. You can see it at Cedar Motors in Farmingdale, Hempstead Turnpike and Route 109. It's good to be around. It really is. How about one more chorus of our old favorite? What would you like to hear us do tonight? How about America the Beautiful? Would you like that? I'm very good on that one. Or Rule the Waves, Britannia. Would you like that one? I don't know why I know such terrible songs. I know all kinds of songs of that type. Would you like me to sing my high school song? Hammond, we're fight for you, purple victory. You don't want to hear that one, do you? Immediately my pimples start coming out and all that stuff. Oh, boy, my foot hurts. And that soft, buttery image of Esther Jane Alberry floats on the view. Well, fellow fighters, fellow sufferers on that yellow brick road of life, do you think we'll ever get it straightened out? Do you? Do you think we'll ever get all of it ironed out? Do you think? No, seriously. No, I really believe one day we can. I think if we work hard on it, we can do it. I remember the other day, reading about this bird. Did you read about this bird that they were experimenting on up at Hofstra? I'll never forget the time I appeared at Hofstra. Somehow this story about the bird reminds me of my appearance at Hofstra, which is still a cause célèbre in certain circles in the old quad cafeteria. Well, at Hofstra, a psychologist has been trying to determine if there's any relationship between the way babies and mynah birds learn the language by mimicking adults. Well, he was working with this mynah bird for about 3 months, and everything was going fine, until all of a sudden the bird came out with about 5 doozies. Pow, pow, pow. Yes, indeed. Well, it turns out that some soreheads were coming in and doing some experimenting of their own late at night with the mynah bird. And this mynah bird, by the way, has now been sent away from the campus, just the way I've never been invited back to Hofstra. But then again, on the other hand, I think in a way this mynah bird somehow, if the truth were out, said it for all of us. But then again, one wonders whether or not there was just some rotten sorehead who was working in the rear window department of a British automobile firm, or whether he was really a truthful man, one of the great writers of his time. Who knows? Lost in the great onrush of civilization. His little statement forever, forever erased from the mind of man, but not really. Not really. It'll stick there. It'll stick there like a tiny cockleburr under the spear-headed saddle of the great war charger that is in each one of us. Hiya, Dad. Keep your knees loose. I would suggest a few guitar lessons. Learn to sing through your nose. Pick up a few snappy cracks, get yourself a good agent, and you're on your way.